you about the Excel charts, dynamic advanced charts. So you can see at the bottom of my workbook, there are multiple sheets here, and in every sheet, I have created a different scenario, and I will discuss it with one by one. So we will be starting with the basic, and then we will be moving towards the advanced concepts as well. Okay, so the first we will be discussing about that how we can do overlapping in charts, and then we will be discussing about how to add an average line, how to highlight the maximum value within the chart, let's say in a column chart, how to handle the negative bars within the data sets, how to utilize the secondary access, what are those situations in which we can use the secondary access, how we can add the trend lines and do forecasting within the Excel charts. If there are some missing dates, how to handle the missing dates. If you have a data regarding the actual budget and variance of what are the appropriate charts regarding those, we will discuss that. Then we will discuss about how to create the expand and collapsible chart. If we want to try top 10, let's say customers from the data and present in an Excel chart, how we can do that, we will discuss that. We will be creating a dynamic chart based on developers tools and I will discuss them. Then we will be moving towards how to add a financial number such as standalone, subsidiary and consolidated into the Excel charts. So we have the scenario on that. Also, we will be creating a dynamic name range chart in which we will be utilizing index and match functions as well. Then we will create one of the interactive charts based on data. Second last, we will be creating the tree map. But and last but not least, we will be create our chart or the speedometer chart. So these are all the scenarios which I told you just we will go one by one with each of the scenarios and let's begin. So the first we will be starting with the beginners and then we will move towards the intermediate concepts and also the advanced as well. So not to worry about it. Just listen to all the concept and then we will move towards the advanced, right? So first thing is that for creating a chart in Microsoft Excel, we need a data and the data defines that which kind of chart is most appropriate. For example, if you have a time period and the data, so the line chart are the most appropriate if you have the categories, then the column chart or bar chart are the most appropriate. If you have classifications, then a bar chart can be very useful. If you have a P&L statement, you can create a waterfall chart from them. So every data has a different classification with respect to the charts and for creating a chart in Microsoft Excel, because most of you are the intermediate users and you already know, we have an answer tab and in the insert tab, we have the different kind of charts here. And let me just select this data and I will go to the charts and here you can see that in the latest version of Microsoft Excel, what the new thing is being implemented by the Microsoft is that if a person don't know how and which kind of chart we need to create, then so there are recommendations by the application itself within the Excel that it is suggesting you that which kind of chart can be the best way to analyze the data, or you can select by going to the all charts and you can select the appropriate category which you are required to visualize that data. So in the first example, we have three columns here: year, sales, and profits. And what we are trying to learn in this technique here is in the first technique is that we will be learning at how to overlap in the column chart. Now, what is overlapping and why we need overlapping here? When we go to the advanced charts categories, you will find out that the overlapping category is very useful there. So for creating a very basic overlap, what we need to do is we will select the data and let's say first I will go to column chart. I just click on column chart and we have a chart which has three attributes in it here. year, sales and profits. Now we don't need to visualize the years because years as a visual is irrelevant. So now this is irrelevant. So what I will do is I will just click on this blue bars and I will press the delete key because we don't need the years as a visual. We need years information as on the horizontal axis. As you can see that we have a numbers on horizontal axis. We don't have the proper information of the years in horizontal axis. So what we need to do is we need to replace these numbers with the years. So what I will do is I will just right click on this horizontal axis and here you can see in contextual menu you have an option which is called select data. So when I click on select data you will get this dialog window which is called select data source. And here on the right side you can see that here is a category which is called horizontal category axis level. I will click on this added button and I will select the range of which represents the year. So now you can see that on my chart, the horizontal axis is representing the year's information. Now we have a chart title also. So for example, if I want to rename this, I will simply double click on this and I will give a good name to it. So let's say overlap column. And if you want to make this title dynamic, what you need to do is, for example, if I write something in blank cell, which is C13 or some other, for example, if I write my name here, Shubham Patel, and I want this specific title should be linked with the Excel cell so that in future, if I change any information within the cell, the title automatically changes. So yes, we can do that. What we can do, I will just click on this title and I will go to the formula by pressing the equal sign and I will click on the cell, which is I am referring, which is C30. So now, as you can see that my chart title is being linked with cell C13 and whenever I change in C13, for example, overlap, so you can see that by changing a word in C13, now my job title is also being changed. So you can link this particular title with your action as well. Okay. Now coming back to the overlapping techniques. So overlapping means putting one bar in front of the another bar. So as we know that sales numbers are almost higher as compared to the profit. So we will be overlapping the profit bars and how to overlap in Excel charts. It is very simple. I will just right click on the gray bar and I will get this contextual menu. And in this contextual menu, I have the last option which is called format data series. When I click on the format data series, you can see that on the right side, we have a navigation pan here. You can see that. Here, option which is available is called series overlap and I can increase the percentage as soon as I increase the percentage of series overlap. You can see the differences coming in your column charts. And when I go with the 100% overlapping, now what you can see is that all the profit bars has been overlapped in front of the sales bar. So this is how we overlap two different categories in one column chart. So I hope the overlapping technique has been clear to you. Now, let's come to the next topic now. Adding an average line. Now, for example, again we have three columns here. Here, sales and average. And we want to add an average line to our Excel chart. So what we can do is I will just select year and sales and I will go to the insert tab and I will click on the let's see column chart. Okay. Now I don't need years. Definitely years is an inappropriate visualization. So I will just click on the here data bars and I will press the delete key. Right now I want an average line to be added here. So what I can do is first I need to calculate the average. So calculating the average in Excel is very easy. You can go to the cell which is an any cell. I am writing a function which is called equals to average bracket open and I will have average of all the sales number year wise and I want an average which is 659.7. Just make it proper and clean. So it is 660 in the is the average. Now I want to add a straight line to my action column chart as an average line. Okay. So how I can do that? So let me tell you once again, what we need to do is we need to have a sales amounts in our column chart, and an average also in our column chart is a line. So let's say if I select the data, I will go to the insert tab and I will click on the column chart. So now you can see that there are three attributes: year, sales and average. So I don't need here. I will just click on the column bars and I will press delete. Now here you can see that all the averages which are in gray color are equal because average is equal, definitely. But the representation of the average as a column is not correct. This is inappropriate. So we just need a straight line. So this states that we need to change this chart type. So for changing the chart type, I will just click on this in bars, right click, and here in the contextual menu, you can see there is an option called change series chart type, right? So when I click on the change series chart type, you can see a window here. And in the average category, instead of clustered column, I will select a line. And when I press OK, now you can see that the average line to the column chart has been added, right? So this was very simple. Now moving towards the third situation of our video, the correct situation is states that how we can highlight a maximum value within the numbers in the column chart. So for example, if I create a chart, which is the column chart, now years are not appropriate. And let me correct the horizontal axis. How we can do that? Right click on the horizontal axis, go to this contextual menu, click on select data, and here we can revise the horizontal axis as years. Now, which year has the highest sales? Yes, it is 2008, right? Okay, let me change something in the data. Now, for example, if I change something in the data, can anyone tell me which is the highest sale? Which year has the highest sale now? Yes. Now the data is changed and now the highest sale is 2014, right? I think we need to highlight the maximum value with a different color and the remaining with a different color. So whenever my data gets changed, and what I need to do is the highest should be in different color and the remaining should be in different color. And that should be automatically not the manual coloring. So how we can do that? So we will be using a helper column, means extra column, and I am writing a formula here. If D4 is equals to maximum of entire range, if this logical step is true, then give me a value which is available in the current cell or otherwise create an error with the NA function. Okay, so after applying a formula, what exactly is going to that from the saves column, we know that the highest amount is 1350 and I need to extract the highest amount from our sales column to a different column. And if the amount is not highest, I'm just generating an error which is called hash NA. And now what is the purpose of generating hash NA? Because the error are not visible in the Excel charts. So to generate an error within a Excel chart, basically we apply these kind of techniques in Excel dashboards. So for generating an error, very short function is already available in Excel equals to name bracket open bracket close. So by applying that, we can create an error as well. So for creating an error, why we are doing it? Because these are not visible in Excel charts. So now if I select this data and if I go to the insert tab and I click on the column chart, the years are not appropriate. Now, as you can see that we have two bars on point number 3, or if I can reset the years as well by correcting the horizontal axis, for example. So now you can see that on in 2015, we have two column bars with the two different colors. One is with the orange and the second one is with the gray color. So if I overlap this gray color, for example, for overlapping, what we need to do is right click on that bar, go to the format data series and make sure that you do 100% overlapping. Now what exactly happens is the gray color becomes in front of the orange bar and orange bar is basically behind the gray bar. So now in future, if any number changes, for example, if I change some numbers, so now you can see that the maximum bar is highlighted with the different color and the remaining are with the different color. So this is how you will create Excel charts dynamically with the help of Excel formulas as well. So for example, if I change something here, you can see that there is a change here coming up. Okay, next, how to handle the negative values? Because as we know that when we create the Excel dashboards, there are some positive numbers in the negative numbers as well. And most commonly times we handle the positive numbers with the green colors and negative numbers with the red colors. One more thing I want to tell you that if you want to highlight the minimum, you can write minimum function here. If you want to highlight the second highest, you have to apply the large function. So here your Excel function knowledge will be very handy for you, not just the Excel charts. But if you are an intermediate user and you know most of the Excel function here, you can create your own creativity with the Excel charts as well. So let me correct this data again. So I was discussing about that sometimes we have a positive number, sometimes we have a negative number, right? And the positive numbers is mostly shown with the green color and negative numbers mostly shown with the red colors, right? So let's suppose if I create a column chart and this shows the definitely the positive numbers going upwards, the bar of the positive numbers are going from 0 to upwards and the negative numbers definitely are going downwards, 0 to negative, right? Right now, one thing you can see here that the horizontal axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not appropriate. The first thing is that we need to correct this information. For doing that, I will just right click on the contextual menu. So I will go to the select data and I will select the year series as well. The point is that this horizontal axis is coming in the middle of this chart and I want to move this horizontal axis downwards. So there is no shortcut. You can drag and drop this horizontal axis. So you need to apply the feature on this issue. So what we can do is right click on the horizontal axis and in this term contextual menu, you can find out the last option, which is called format axis. And I will click on format axis and from here on the right side menu, I need to do some changes. The first one is, if you can see here, we have a vertical axis process here. We need to select the add maximum category, okay, and the label position will be low, so the label position will be low, and if I don't need that maximum category, okay, so my vertical axis is on the left side rather than the right side. So as you can see that for dragging and dropping the horizontal axis at the below of the chart, right? What I need to do is I just expanded the levels and the level position. I set to low. Okay. Now coming back to this topic, let's say for the positive numbers, I need to fill the green color and for the negative numbers, I need to fill the red color. All right. So how we can do that? So let me tell you a very easy option to handle the coloring of the positive and negative option. And let me tell you this technique and you will definitely like it. For example, if I am doing it manually, so what I can do is I will just click on the particular bar and I will go to the bucket and I will select the green color and I will do it for one by one for every of the column color, right? But I don't need to do this. I will not handle the colors like this. What I can do is very simple technique is I will just right click on this bar. You will see a text contextual menu here. And the last option is format data series. Okay, now when I click on the format data series on the right side, you can see that here is a bucket. And I will click on this bucket and I will expand the fill category. And here you can see an option which is called invert if negative. I will check mark on this option which is called invert if negative, and I will also click on solid fill. So after performing these steps, you will see that there are two buckets. The first bucket, in the first bucket, I will select a green color for positive numbers, and in the second bucket, I will select the red colors for negative numbers. And I will close this all my data series menu. Now, for example, later on, if I find something a change in the number or a number going positive from negative, for example, if I write minus 80, so now you can see that the positioning and the color automatically changes. If I write something like 600, so now you can see that the colors and the positions automatically changes, right? So this is how you can handle the colors of the positive and negative figures within the Excel chart. So the next part is how to handle the secondary axis. What are those situations in which we need to have a secondary axis? So I have a data which is of three columns: days, revenue, and the number of calls. Now, for example, if I select this data and I will go to insert tab and then click on column chart and I will select a column chart, for example. Now, as you can see that I can see the revenue and also the number of calls at the same time in my Excel column chart. But due to the very small numbers as compared to the revenue numbers, the visualization of number of calls is inappropriate here because the number of calls are the quantity and the revenue is the amount which is in thousands. So sometimes our chart becomes irrelevant in these kind of cases. So what we need to do is we need an extra or secondary axis to handle these kind of small numbers. So quick, let me correct it quickly so we can do that. So if you can see that when you click on the chart is active, you have some tabs on the or the ribbons on the top of your these styles. So what we can do is we can go to the format tab and from here I can select the series which is called number of calls. So all the number of calls series has been selected. On my chart, I will just right click on this. The contextual menu will appear. I will go to format data series and now here you can see that on the right side, instead of primary axis, I will just click on the secondary axis. Now after making secondary axis to the number of calls, I will also change the series chart type and I will call it as a line chart instead of column chart. So now the presentation, the visualization has been entirely changed as it was previous because in the previous example, the visualization was not appropriate because we have a situation where we have very small numbers which represent the number of calls and we have a large numbers which represent the revenue. And in these kind of scenarios, we need to enable the secondary axis. So the next situation, all right. Do some sales. The sales are in billions. And we have some past data from 2012 to 2019, and then they have made a very good progress in terms of sales. Their sales has been increased with the passes of time. So from 2012, the sale was 3 billion and then it moves to 3.2, then 3.9, 3.1, and in 2019, we have 7.7 billions of sales. Now, in 2020, we need to forecast that how, based on the previous trend, past trend, how much will be the companies doing sales for this year, which is 2020. So, there are two types to do it. The first one is we can apply the forecast function, and there are so many forecast functions as well. If you are very good conceptual, strong in forecasting. So you can grab that concept and the basic forecast function, that is a straight line, has been drawn, which is an equation of y is equals to x plus c. So if you have somewhere studied in the statistics how to do the forecasting and if you know this equation which is y is equals to x plus c. So you can get an idea that what this function is doing. So let us go to the function side first. If we have a past data and we need to forecast the sales based on the past trends, in Excel we have a function which is called forecast. So there are three functions argument to it. The first one is the x. X is the current year, which is in A11. Now, known y. Known y is the past amounts. Okay. But the sales amount which has done in the past, then known x, the number of years of the past. When I close the bracket, I will not, I will got my forecasted sales from 2020, which is 7.30. Now this is when they help or with the help of forecasting function. But what if we need to get this forecasting number in the Excel charts, and we can do it by adding a trend line. So let me just select the data from 2012 to 2019. And what I can do is I will just go to the insert tab. I will click on the column chart. Okay. And here I don't need the years. So now you can see that we have some sales numbers. Let me correct the years, which is in the horizontal axis. We have from 2012 to 2019 numbers. And I need to add a trend line as a forecasting for the next year as well. So how are we gonna do that? It is very simple. I will just click on this orange bar, right click, and here in the contextual menu you can find an option which is called add trend line. When I click on add trend line, you can see that if you have conceptually very strong, as I said earlier, if your statistics is strong and you know the concept that when to use the exponential growth trend line, when to use the linear, when to use the polynomial, for example, right? So depend on the industry, you select the trend line option. Now for this example, we will go with the default, which is the linear. And I told you the equation, which is y is equals to mx plus c. And here in the option, you can see that we have a category called forecast. And in the forward one, because I need to forecast next year time period, only one time period. When I press enter, you can see that this trend line has been increased and giving me a forecast for the next year, which is more than 7 in the vertical axis, which is approximately 7.3. So by the forecast function, you can drive that number by adding the trend line. You can do this as well. Also, you can select this option, which is called display equation on the chart, which I told you y is equals to mx plus c, or you can have a r squared value as well, right? So these are all the numbers who knows the statistics well. Okay. So this is how we can add the forecasting trend lines in Excel charts. Now, the next topic is sometimes we have data, but there are some missing dates as well. And when we have a missing dates and we hide the data, the Excel charts visualization gets changed. So let me quickly create a chart. We have two columns, dates and the price, which is the most appropriate chart to create here. Can you tell me? Hmm. Here we have a time period, and the most preference given to time periods is the line chart. And let me just prove this. When I hover my mouse on this line chart, the tooltip appears, and what this tooltip sees, this is use this chart to show trends over time, years, months, and days or categories. So definitely Excel is also showing you that whenever you find or and over time kind of data, you can go with the line chart. So let me create a line chart here. And now you can see that we have some price daily basis and we have some dates, and the flow is like sometimes it goes down and sometimes move upwards like a stock exchange here, right? And now what happens in the issue here is, for example, now this is the actual visualization of our chart. Later on, for example, for any reason, if I hide some of the data, okay, if I hide some of the data now, you can see that my visualization is also changed. Now, this means that the visualization is only reflecting the numbers which are visible on the spreadsheet. This is not including which are hidden on the spreadsheet. And this definitely makes an inappropriate or incorrect visualization because we have that data, but that is hidden. And this hidden data is exploded by this line chart. So we need to control that. So how we gonna do that? Let me tell you, very simple. What you need to do is you just need to go to this line chart, right click on this line, okay? On this contextual menu, click on select data, select data source, window will appear. On the left bottom of this window, you will find an option which is called hidden or empty cells. And here you can see that there is an option called show data and hidden rows and columns. I will just enable this option and I will press OK, right? So let's say if I hide some of the raw rows later on, my visualization is still correct. So it also includes their hidden rows data as well. Okay, so this is how you can handle the hidden rows data within Excel charts. Sometimes we have a data in which we have the actual numbers, we have the budgeted numbers. So which kind of best visualization can be fitted? So let me give you some of the ideas which you can like as well. So I know most of you have this kind of data in your day in day out routine, something like products or numbers or series and actually budget and the various, right? So in this kind of data, which are the most appropriate kind of chart we can create? So let me give you two or three ideas. The first idea is that let me select three columns. So it is actually in the budget. I will press Alt F1, which is the shortcut key. And this is the default chart type, which is set in Microsoft Excel in my version. And here you can compare all these five different cities with each other with respect to the actual and budgeted numbers. So the actions that have been shown in the blue bars and the budgeted numbers have been shown in the orange bars. Okay. And we can compare that which of the city has made more progress as compared to the budget. So then we can compare and analyze, but this is very simple. What more we can do to this kind of chart? What more we can do this with the formatting, which makes it more attractive. So the first idea is let me just select the data again and Alt F1 and I will do something here. In this second chart, I will first apply the overlapping techniques. So I will overlap the budget bars for overlapping. Now you all know how to do overlapping. Simply right click on the bar on this contextual menu. You can find out format data series. Series option. You can do the 100% overlapping now. Adding some more interesting things to this formatting kind of with the budget is we can say that we don't need the orange color here. We make it transparent by clicking on no filter. We need a borderline and we can increase the width of this borderline. You can change the color as well, right? And now you can see that very quickly you can visualize the data that what are the cities, which are the cities who have met need the budget, what are those cities who haven't met the budget. So New Delhi and Bangalore are the regions who have not met the budget or the targets. So this is how I adding to three little format things. You can go with the good visualization in the Excel charts. One more concept of the idea is you can select the cities data and the variance, and this time we will again create a one more chart which is column chart, and this will be doing I mean, and we will be doing something like we did it previously. We will drag the horizontal axis to the bottom. For doing that, what we need to do is we will go to the levers and we will set it to the low. We can handle the green and red color variant colors by clicking on this data vars format data series. We will check mark on the invert if negative and the solid fill, and we will define the colors in the buckets appropriately. So then we can see that the New Delhi and the Bangalore are the regions who have not met budget. So these are the kind of an idea which you can see that from the one set data set. We have created three different kinds of charts, right? All right. So next is something about the expand and the expandable and collapsible chart part. How we can create that? For example, if I have a data and if I go with the, let's suppose a bar chart this time. Okay, so I have created a bar chart, and now when you create a bar chart, there is an issue of the bar chart is that your data is starting from total sales Jan, Feb, April, and so on. But your chart is starting from December, November, October. It is reversed. So when you create a bar chart, the vertical axis is reversed by default. So first we need to correct the vertical axis. For correcting the vertical axis, what we need to do is right click format axis, and here there is an option which is called categories in reverse order. I will just click on that, and for the labels, horizontal axis at maximum category right now, the information is not required. We will simply click on that and press the delete key, so we are not required these kind of information now. No grid lines to increase the width of these bars. What we can do is right click on format data series and decrease the percentage of gap. But okay, so this is how you can increase the width of these bars. Let me make it resizing a bit. Okay, a bit more transparent. For making it transparent, what we need to do is right click on our chart area, no fill, and now you can see that we have a chart here. Now the idea is how we can create an expanded to collapsible chart. If we have some time notice in an Excel workbook, there are plus and minus signs just before rows and columns, and mostly on the rows, and that option is available in the data tab, which is called the outlay. And we can group and ungroup columns and rows as per our requirement. But for example, if it is like it was from January to December, if I select the data and when I click on group, but you can see that before the numbers of rows, we have something called extend and collapse. Okay. If the management want to see the overall position, they can see that by the total sales is 2456. If they want to further break up of it, they can just click on plus button, and you can see that all the all the months have been expanded. And now we can see here to hide this plus minus sign, there is no direct button we have in Excel. But what we can do is we can apply the shortcut key, which is Control 8. So when you press Control 8, the expand and collapsible buttons get hide within the worksheet. And when you press Control 8 again, this can be visible as well. All right. So this is how we can create the expand and collapsible charts. Next is we have a data and we need to find out the top 10 customers out of it. So let's create a chart, but this time let's create a pivot. And through the pivot, we will create a chart. So first we will need to select the data, and I will go to insert tab and I will click on pivot table and I will press OK. And from here, I will drag some of the fields, for example, customer ID to the rows, purchase amount to the values. And because I need top 10 customers, what I need to do is I will click on this option, and which is the filter option. I will go to value filters, and here you can find top 10. So I need top 10 items based on some of the amounts. You can go for the bottom as well. You can increase or decrease the number as well. So now I got the top 10 customers. Now by selecting this data, if I go to insert tab and when I click on a bar, for example, bar chart, now as you can see here, we have a top 10 customers on this data. But what is something to be required to make it more appropriate as we can find out the highest person, but we are not able to find out the second highest person, although we have the top 10. But the most appropriate sequence wise, sorted wise are not present. So how to correct that? The first thing which I told you that whenever you create a bar chart, the axis will be reversed. So first you need to correct the axis. For correcting the axis, what you need to do is right click on this vertical axis. Okay. Go to forward axis. Okay. And here on the right side, you will select categories in reverse order and the horizontal axis crosses the maximum category. So now your column chart and your bar chart is basically appropriate with respect to the data flow. But now what you need to do is you also need to sort these as well. So what you can do is we will open this filter menu again. We will go to more sort of the options and here we will select descending based on some of these amounts. So we got top 10 customers as a visual and a bar chart. And if we want to add specific numbers for each other customers, what we can do is we will right click on these bars and we will see that add the data labels. So now the data labels are also up here and we can identify easily that who is the highest topmost customer, who is the second highest, and the third is, right? So I hope this technique has also been clear to you. We have done with the help of pivot chart and a pivot. Now, the interesting part is about to start. We are moving towards the advanced charts. Now, we are moving towards the advanced charts, and I need your concentration. So, let's begin now. In this current example, we will be creating one dynamic chart, and for creating a dynamic chart, might be you have seen some of the Excel users use the developer tools, and the buttons like checkboxes, combo boxes, drop down list, right? So, and now we will be learning that how to implement those kind of forms, buttons with the help of logic and how we can create the interactive and dynamic charts. So let's begin with the first example. We have four columns: years, revenue, net profit, and number of customers, right? And we need to create a simple chart, which is the column and the line chart, but we will make it a dynamic based on the checkboxes. Now to insert a checkbox, you need a developer tab. After the video, when you will be doing practice, if you don't find the developer tab within your Excel application, what you need to do is you need to go to file tab option and then you need to enable the developer tab as well. So if I can show you, you need to go to file tab option, okay, and then customize ribbon. And here you can see that there is this option called developer. You need to check off this developer so that the developer tab can be visible in your Excel application. Okay. Next thing is that we need checkboxes. So for inserting a checkboxes, you can see that there is a group called controls and we have a third category. And from the phone controls, you can see on the third position, we have checkbox. So when I will just simply click on this checkbox and I will drag and drop into my spreadsheet, I need three checkboxes because I need to choose revenue, net profit, and number of customers. So I am just copying and pasting these checkboxes. Okay. The next step is if you want to rename the checkbox, it is very simple. What you can do is you can just right click. You can just right click on the checkbox and click on add the text and you can rename the checkbox as well. For example, not the sales, but for example, revenue. Then right click, edit text, net profit, and then number of customers. All right. Now, when I click on any of the checkboxes, it shows me a check. within this checkbox, and I can check and uncheck by again and again clicking on it. But there is no impact on my spreadsheet as well. So remember that whatever you insert, whatever kind of a button you insert in your spreadsheet from the form controls, you need to link this object as well with your spreadsheet to link the option, but not a checkbox or anything with this spreadsheet. What you can do is right click in this contextual menu. You have an option which is called format controls. The dialog window format control will appear, and here you can have a category, an option which is called cell link. So we will pick a blank cell. For example, in my case is, and then I will pick up blank cell. I will say link the cell with an object. So now when I check mark on the revenue, the cell generates true. When I uncheck this revenue, the cell generates false. This means that the tag box, it creates a boolean value, either true or false. So when I check on the checkbox, it generally true. When I uncheck the checkbox, it generates false. Similarly, for the net profit and the number of customers, I need to blank cells, and I will be doing the same activity as I performed for the revenue. Simply right click going for the format controls. I will click on the cell link, and now I can see that I can control my net profit checkbox, and it generates a boolean value. Last but not the least, for the number of customers, I will just right click, I will link with the cell, and now you can see that the number of customers are also connected or linked with my Excel spreadsheet set. Now you will get an idea very soon that why we have done this, why you have done this. I am writing a formula here, and I want you to understand, if you are an intermediate Excel user, so you will quickly grab it that what this formula is doing. So let me quickly write a formula here, and I need your concentration to understand this formula. If B10 is equals to true, if this logical test is successful, then returns me a value which is in cell V1. Otherwise, generate an error which is NA. And I told you earlier in this video that by generating an error not visible in Excel charts. So I will just copy this formula and I will paste it here. So now as you can see that when I check mark on the revenue, you can see that all this data ever has been copied and pasted below this area with the help of if function. So what I told Excel is that if there is a check mark in the revenue, the value becomes true here and logical has become successful. Logic has become successful. So if the logical test is successful, returns me the sale value which is in the above cells. Okay, so now for example, if we can observe that we have any in the net profit and number of customers, when I check mark on the net profit and the number of customers, the data is being copied and pasted with the help of if function and is running on the basis of these checkboxes. Now the last part, we will select this data and we will create a column chart and we will do some customization. For example, we don't need a legend for now. We don't need years information in our chart. We need to correct the horizontal axis. For doing that, I have also told you earlier that we need to correct the horizontal axis to present the information better. We can overlap the net profits. Yes, right click, format data series, and you can overlap the series. We can, because the number of customers is very small as compared to the revenue and net profit amounts, we need to change the type and we will make this number of customers as a line chart. Now you can see that when I remove the checkbox from the revenue get disappear because the NA is generated here and NA is not visible in the Excel chart. When I uncheck the net profit disappear, and when I uncheck the customers are not appearing. So whatever I need to show in the chart, I can just check mark and I can control the attributes or the variables. You can say which the management want to see. So this is how we create the dynamic charts. Now you might have the question that when and why do we use this checkbox? So basically in the developer tab, we have a lot of objects, right? We have a combo box, we have the drop down menu, we have the checkboxes, and every button has its own output, has own specific purpose. So with the passage of time and with the experience and with the knowledge of Excel charts, you will learn that in which kind of situation you need to appropriately select the right form controls and make your chart dynamic. So now moving towards the next part of our video. Okay, so let me show you the tree map first and then I will come back to what our tree maps are. Also now, see basically most of the very good custom visuals are now available in our API because we know that Power BI is a business intelligence application that we create dashboards and we have a very big marketplace of custom visuals now available. But in Microsoft Excel, we have somehow we if you have the latest version, we have a good number of charts available. But if you have the Office 365 subscription, you can go to get add-ins and you can download that add-ins free of cost. But still, we have some limitations and we need to do a lot of calculations to create some very interactive charts and Microsoft Excel as compared to other business intelligence applications. So this is one of the limitations because we need to put a lot more effort to create very advanced charts in Excel as compared to Power BI. So never mind. So let me explore some of the more kinds of charts if you have the latest version in Excel. So here we have our data which has two columns, cities and actual, and we want to analyze. So first option is Excel gives you its recommendations you automatically and that these are the kind of best fit charts for your data. But for example, if we want to go with a tree map which shows the volume, so here you can have a kind of tree map where the volumes have been visualized according to the width and height. And in this kind of chart, you can add more something like it. We can add data lakes. Like you can add the values, you can add the series names. So the tree maps are also very useful when you have a lot more categories. Okay, sometimes column charts get very mess when you have a lot of products, when you have 50 or 40 products. So the column chart will not be more appropriate. Then you can go with the tree maps and those kind of situations that you have a more categories. You can go for tree maps, right? Let's come to one more kind of a chart. Yes, there is something interesting. We have a data and we have thing is that if I select this data and if they go to insert tab and this time I will select the top column. Okay. So that means that one country is not going to separate. So for example, years are not appropriate here. So I will just delete that. Now you can see that the standalone, subsidiary and consolidated has been a splendid year-wise. But in our case, what we need to do is we need to create two bars. In the first column bar, we need to see the numbers of standalone and subsidiary together. And in the second column bar, we need to see a consolidated as a separate bar. So for doing that, we need to do some steps within the Excel because we don't have those kind of direct charts. So what I will do is I will insert two rows in between of every data. Okay, now why I am adding two rows? Let me explain in a bit moment that why I have added two rows in between. Why not three rows or why not four rows? What is the concept of adding two blank rows within the data? Let me tell you. As you can see that here on the first year 2010 we have three numbers standalone, subsidiary and consolidated, right? In one column bar we need to just see the two numbers together, but on the next bar we just need one number, which is the consolidated. So, what the second step tells us, we need to shift the consolidated numbers one step downwards. So, every consolidated numbers need to be shifted downwards by one step, okay? And now, basis of this kind of data set, if I again select the data, I will go to Insert tab and I will click on Stack Chart. And I will remove the years. And instead of numbers, I will select the years information there. So now you can see that on the one column bar, we have the numbers of a standalone and subsidiary. And in the second column bar, we have consolidated as a separate. But you can also observe that between these two column bars, there is some gap. And we don't need this gap. We need to eliminate this gap. So how we can do that? I will just uh, right click on the consolidated bars, right click format data series, and I will just make the gap to 0%. So now you can see that we have numbers of standalone and subsidiary as a column, as a separate column bar, for the consolidated as a separate column bar. And this is the year wise. So this is how we need to do some tips and tricks within the Excel to make sure that if you are doing some financial analysis and we need to create a dashboards, so sometimes our management prefers that you need to show a consolidated or separate column, or you need to show standalone separately as a separate. When those kind of situations, we need to create these kind of charts. Okay. So now this is one of the most interesting and most my favorite, personal favorite kind of chart, which I am turning with the help of an index match. So how many of you understand the index and match? If you understand index and match, then it is well and good. Otherwise, please visit the previous lectures where I have already told you about the index and match in detail. Here, I am just applying it very fast because I am assuming that you are an intermediate Excel users and you might be moving towards and rather than VLOOKUP, which is now the traditional. And now we have the XLOOKUP as well. So I was hoping that you know index and match. If you don't understand index and match, there is no problem. You can just watch my previous lectures on index and match and you can grab the concept that how we have utilized them. Okay. So now let me move quickly to the example that how we can create a dynamic range and create a dynamic chart. So for example, let me tell you the scenario first. For example, if I select this 3 rows, month, actual, budget, and when I go to the insert tab, for example, because we have a time period in our data series, so we will be preparing the line chart. So now we have a chart which is a line chart and it depicts the actual and budget numbers from Jan to June, right? Now, my wish is that I want to create something dynamic that if I can select the date, time period, for example, I don't want to see all the months. I need to see the specific months. For example, I need to see the months from February till May. So when I select February from the menu and to May, so this chart automatically filters the time period. So for that, we need to create the dynamic name ranges and I'm using the index and match function in into. Now, before proceeding further, how many users have no idea about this data validation list? Though I have already covered this topic in the previous lectures, still, let me to create a drop-down list, we have an option which is called data validation. How to create the data validation? It is very simple. You need to go to data tab and here you have an option which is called data validation. And from this validation criteria, you select the list and in the source, you define the range which you want to see in the list. So after that, you have an arrow, a small arrow on the right side of the cell, which shows you a list of demands. So this is very simple and easy to create a drop-down list with the help of data validation in Microsoft Excel. Now, coming forward to the main part of this chart technique, basically dynamic name chart technique is, let me tell you the very basic so that you should not get confused. Very basic, okay? I have some numbers and I need to sum all these numbers. So I am using sum function, and within the sum function, you can see that my first cell is starting from D10 and my last cell is D14. And this column means between all the numbers available from cell D10 till D14 will get add together, right? Based on this concept, we will be creating an index in match, and we will be copying and pasting those ranges into this name range, and we will be applying those ranges to the Excel chart to make it dynamic. So first, for the dynamic, name range for the actual equals to index, and within the index we need to define the array what we are required as an output. So we need a numbers from the actuals, and if you have observed the database, and database has been set column wise, and all elements are in column wise. So the action numbers are present from B6 to G6, and I will make this range an absolute. Then I will skip the second function argument, which is the row number, because I told you that my data has been set column wise, not the row wise. So I will use the column number function argument within the match function within the index function. And I will put the match function to look up the value. So the first starting one through which I will filter it from the menu drop down menu, this will be my X lookup value. The X lookup error will be the dates or the months available in the row number 5. This will match. I will make it absolute and 0 for the exact match. Now this is the first point. This is the from point. Now I need to make it a 2 point as well. And for the between, you know that we use the call column. Now again, I will use index, actual numbers, and again one more match. And this time I will select the 2 cell, because this will be the endpoint which will select from the drop down list, making it absolute. The range of months is presented in round number 5, making it absolute and 0 for the exact match. Now, whatever it is generating here right now doesn't matter, because if you are if you will use actually 2010 or the previous versions, might be it gives you an error. That's possible because I'm using the latest version, so it is creating an array and it is spell the array outside those other cells as well. So there is a concept of error behind it. That's not our topic of this concept, but you need to understand the logic formula there. We have created a starting point dynamic, which is the first part and the end point, and which is the second part. And for the between, we have used the column sign. Now, this was the act for actuals. For the widgets, what we need to do is we just need to change the actual range to the budget range, and you can do that by just dragging and dropping it. So you plot the budget numbers. Next thing for the dates. So again, I will just copy and paste this formula, and for making a dynamic range for the date, definitely we know that in the index and match, the array would be the range of dates, nothing else. What now? The next part is what we do. We will just copy and paste these 3 formulas into our name ranges. Now, those of you who are intermediate users of Excel and you know advanced Excel as well, so you know the concept of name ranges. And to create a name ranges, you need to go to Formulas tab, and here you have Name Manager, right? And from here, you can create a different kinds of name ranges. I have already told you in my previous lectures. So what I will do is I will just copy this entire formula. I will go to the name manager and I will give it a name. Let's say actual, which is perfect fine for me, and I will just paste that formula here. So the actual name ranges has been created. Now I will just add the cell and copy the budgeted formula which I created, and I will put into a name ranges which is called budget. Okay. I will copy and paste this as well. Last but not the least, for the dates, dynamic dates. I will again copy this formula. I will go to the name manager and I will give it a name as dates and I will paste. So now, after copying and pasting all these formulas and creating the name ranges, which is called actual budget and dates, now we will define these three ranges into the Excel charts so that our chart should make dynamic. Now, for doing that, what we need to do is we will right click on this line. We will go to the select data option. Need to do some changes. The first change, as you can see that behind of this dialog window, you can see there is an animation and that data has been selected, which is the static data, not a dynamic. Month, actual and budget. So what I will do is I will click on this actual legend and I will click on add it. And in the series values, you can see that there is an absolute range which is called B6 to G6. Now, this is the static absolute shell references. Instead of these references, I will just put that dynamic range here, name range here. Let's just for the actual. Okay. Then for the budget, again, see these values and instead of this static absolute name range, I will call that dynamic range name range, which is name budget and last but not the least for the dates. I will remove this absolute name range and instead of this, I will put the dates here. So now we don't need further this output. I will just delete them. And now you can see that from the drop down menu, when I click Jan and when I change the time period March, so you can see that my chart is being now dynamic and it is just showing the time period which I selected, Jan to March here in the line as a line chart. If I increase the time period, you can see that it can increases the time here. I can decrease the time period as well. So this is how with the help of index and match function and the concept of name ranges, you can create a specific time period dynamic named in this chart as well in Microsoft Excel. Okay. So second last chart of our video, there is an interactive chart. And this chart is also very wonderful and one of my most favorite. And I used to deliver these kind of charts in my working as a freelancer. So let me explain you how to create an interactive chart. And first I found it on this chart on various blogs and website on the internet. So this is very common and there is no very hard formula has been applied. And you will also love it. You will love this technique of interactive charts creating in Microsoft Excel. But definitely later on you will find probably the most useful and most dynamic interactive application for the dashboard. Well, I can observe in India and other parts of the country as well that people are still people are creating their dashboards in Microsoft Excel. And still, the organizations have to adopt Power BI at their full power. But coming back to the topic, this is the second last chart on the dynamic chart, which I will show you. And the last will be the gauge chart or the speedometer chart. You can see, and I will show you quickly that how to create a speedometer chart as well in Microsoft Excel because we don't have the straightforward option of a speedometer chart. We need to do some tips and tricks to create a dial chart or needle if you have observed in some of the dashboards. So, all right, we have some data. There are a few columns here, revenue, cost, profit, and the number of customers in billions. And we have three different charts, sales, cost and cost, profits, and number of customers. And these are very basic charts. I hope now you don't have any confusion that how we have created these charts is a very basic chart. You select the data, you go to some formatting option, and you can build this kind of basic charts. But our purpose of this video is to give you an idea that how to create an interactive charts by using 3 or 4 tools within the Excel application. So these three charts are related to sales and cost, profit trends, and customer versus sales per customer. We can say that only the customer because we don't have the customer at the moment. So what we need to do is we will create a drop down list here and we will select the chart type, and the chart which is presented in different sheet will automatically reflect in our Excel sheet, this Excel sheet. Okay. So it will come automatically with the help of the interactive chart activities. So first we need to have the drop down menu. Okay. So for the drop down menu, what we need to do is I will go to the developers tab, insert, and from here I will use the combo box. So I have inserted a combo box here, and the combo box is basically empty here. So first need to fill that. And also I told you that you need to connect this combo box with the blank cell also, right? How we can do that? It is very simple. Simply right click and let's say you can see this contextual menu. The last option is called format controls. And here we need to fill some of the fields. The first one is the input range. What we need to show is the drop down menu in the input range. So I will just click on this input range. I will go to the other sheet and I will select these three names, which is the sales, profit, and customers. And I need to link this object with the blank cells. So I will pick J4 in my case. So now you can see that my drop-down list has been filled, and when I select any of the from the list item, this combo box generate a serial number incremental of 1. So I have 3 items in my list, and I will when I click on any of item with a sequence, this cell generates a serial number, right? Now the next part is what we need to do is, for example, if I click on the sales and cost here. So by clicking on sales and cost, the chart which is on the other sheet should form automatically here on this interactive chart. So how we can do that? First, we need to define the name ranges for these charts. And as we know that the charts are on the top of the cells, on the back end, we have a cells, and by selecting the range, we can define the name range. So for example, if I selected a range where the chart 1 is presented, and I go to the name box and I write a chart name which is called chart 1. You can write any name, but without these spaces. You can use the underscore as well. For the chart number 2, I will select that area. I will go to the name box and I write the name which is the chart 2 in, but the chart 3. I will select that entire area and I will go to the name box and I will write a name as chart 3. And if I need to check that, I can go to the formula tab, click on name manager, and you can see here chart 1, chart 2, and chart 3 name ranges created. The next thing which I want to ask you that, do you know the choose function? I have already told you in my previous lectures about the choose function and how you can apply them. Let me explain it to you again in very brief. Then we will get back to the topic again. So it is very simple and easy. Let's say Excel Shubham Patel. Okay. I have wrote 3 different words in 3 different cells. I wrote 3 different words in 3 different cells. And here, let's say if I apply the choose function, the first function argument is give me the index number. It should be a positive number. For example, if I write 3 here and you will get concept why I have written 3 here. Why not 2 or why not 1? Comma, value 1. Value 1 will be first cell of our data. Value 2 will be second cell of the data. Value 3 will be third cell of our data. So what I am saying to the Excel is choose the third position number, cell number. So on the third position, we have L9, and in L9, I have the word which is Patel presented in the cell. So the choose column will choose the third cell and gives us the output. So for example, if I write 2 here, so based on this sequence, on the second position, L8 is the cell. So Excel choose function will choose the L8 from because I have wrote the index number 2 here, and it returns the Shubham, right? So this is the primarily concept of choose function that from a range it picks according to the index number, right? Now the second last part is, as you know that this drop-down menu generates a number and cell, and this will be our base cell, and we will apply choose function on it. But then the name ranges, and you know that if you know Excel and you have created a name range before, so for creating a name range, we need to go to name manager, and from here you can click on new. All right, let me give its name, for example, chart selection. And here in the bottom, it refers to the field. Let me write choose function. So I am telling Excel choose from cell J4. J4 basically generates a number every time when we select any of the item from a drop-down menu. So we are telling Excel that choose a number from J4, and sequence has been defined here. For example, chart 1, chart 2, chart 3. Capital and lower small case should not be a problem here. But if you make a spelling mistake, that interactive chart could not be created. So the lower and uppercase should not be a problem here, but spelling should be corrected. Now, after creating a dynamic range called chart selection with the help of a choose function, now here comes the last part. I will select a random range here, which is entirely a blank range. I will press Ctrl C to copy this range. I will go to Home tab, open the paste menu, and here you can see the last option, which is called link picture. Now, this range has been converted as a mirror image, as a link picture. And on the top of the formula bar, I will remove that range and I will write chart selection, which is the dynamic range. Now, here you can see that next time, if I select any of the title from this drop-down menu, the chart automatically changes. So this is how, after applying 5 to 6 steps, if you have the concept of tools, function, and name ranges, right? So this kind of interactive charts making it is not a very difficult for the user. You just need to remember these steps, and this is how you can make the interactive and dynamic chart. Now, the last part of this video is the speedometer chart or gauge chart. Okay, so I have created data and I have put the formulas. Also, the formulas are not very much difficult to understand, but definitely there are some limitations too. But I will try my level best to make sure that you understand the speedometer or the gauge chart in Microsoft Excel as compared to the Power BI, because in Power BI, on one click you can create without any troubleshoot. But in Microsoft Excel, you need some tips and tricks to create a needle or a gauge chart. First you need a donut chart, and then you need a customization for to it. Then you need to have a pie chart, and by adding donut in pie chart together by hiding some of the portion, you can create the speedometer chart. Okay, or you can say a gauge chart as well. So let me quickly explain you that what is this working all about. And after the video, you can apply on your different scenarios. It can be more than 3 categories in speedometer chart according to your requirements. So again, as I told you, internet is open. It's on YouTube and Google. A lot of Excel experts has written a very detailed blogs and videos on the chart, but as a trainer, I need to explain you some of the intermediate concept about the speedometer chart here in this video. So let me explain you the last part of the video, and that is about the speedometer chart. It involves a lot of steps to do it. Okay, the first is the needle. Let's say our speedometer chart from the start from 1 till 100, and we have 3 categories, for example lower, medium, and upper, or for example fail, average, or excellent. So you can name categories any kind of a name you can give it to that. I just written a section A, section B, section C, and you know that the portion will be the 100, and that needle will be applied inside the 100 number. So section 1 has been allocated the 40 points. Section 2 has 30. Section B has 30 and section C has 30. If you want to add more section or more products, as your practical example of this volumeter chart, you can, but it should be a total of 100. Okay. Now, according to that, but next, and the next thing is that you need a needle as well. So for creating a needle, we need to create a pie chart and we need to hide or make it transparent, some of that part as well. And there is a calculation in this. So a needle or a width of the pointer is basically a needle minus the width of the pointer. Okay, you can increase and decrease the size of the width as you want in the charts, and the total is being created like the sum of the donut chart minus the middle portion so that it can be retained up to 1 degree. Now let me show you the practical side so that you can understand how it works. Also, the first thing is that I selected that data for creating a donut chart. So I will select this specific area, which consists of 3 sections in our total. I will go to Insert tab and I will click on Charts. And I will select a donut chart here. All right. And I will let me maximize this. Now you can see 4 different colors in my donut chart. Yellow portion should be hidden or invisible, and the blue portion denote the section A, which is 40%. This range denotes the section B, 30%, and the section C, gray, 30%. But we also need to change the angle of this donut chart as well, right? So for doing that, what we need to do is we will right click on this donut. In this contextual menu, you will find at the end of there is a format data series option, and in this option there is a first option called angle of slice. So the angle of first slice will be to 70 degrees. When you make it to 70 degrees, the yellow portion will come downwards, and now we need to hide that, or you can say the invisible. So what we can do is we will go to the bucket and we will say we don't need a color to it. We don't need a legend here and we don't need a chart title here. Make this white background transparent. I know. Also, you can change the color by double clicking on each of the boxes on this donut chart or the area of the donut chart, and you can change the color. For example, first for the red and the second is yellow and the third for which is green. So this was the first portion to create a chart. Now we need a needle, right? So for creating a needle, we need to create a pie chart, and I have done some calculation there. So I will just select this data and I will go to Insert tab, and now I will click on pie chart. So when I click on pie chart, you can see that a pie chart appears. And from here, we need to make some changes. So again, right click on this pie chart for my data series, and again, the angle of slice would be to 70. Okay, so then we don't need this gray area. We need to make it invisible. So I know you know how to do it. Now go to the bucket, no fill again. This blue area, no fill. If you need to change the color of the needle, click on the needle and instead of orange, click on black. We know don't need the chart title, we don't need the legend. We need to make a background white color. So we don't need a fill here. Now, as you can see that there are 2 charts. The first one is the pie chart, which controls the needle, and the second one was the donut chart. Now we need to align them together. So to align them together, to make it a gauze chart, at the end, I will select the first and second chart together by holding the control key, and then I will go to the shape format, and here I will use the alignment options, which is first center and then middle. And now you can see that it is almost, not almost equal, and or you can just increase or decrease the size of this border as well, of this chart border as well. Okay, to make it more appropriate. So now if I change a number in the needle, for example, if I give a number less than 40, for example 35, so you can see that the needle goes to 35. And if I write 40 here, that's 40. If I write 90, that goes to 90, right? And let's say if you need to increase the categories, for example, if I make more categories and if I give each of them 20, right? And we need section D, section E. So now you can see that we have also added a few more categories in our this chart as well. So that's all for today. I hope you like this video. Thank you.